If you guys remember my last video, I talked about how to do keto on the basic level. This time I'm going to talk about how it's affected my life and tips and tricks I've learned along the way. My life lesson of the week is you don't really know what a lack of sleep is until your wife is sick. So the first point I want to talk about is how did I involve my family when it came to keto? When it came to adapting my diet and bringing my family into the picture, it wasn't really a thing, and that was a problem that I had originally. The most important tip that I would take away from having your family involved in this journey as a dad and as a Catholic is really pray about it and communicate with your family your goals and see if they're on the same page with you, because if you're not unified with your wife, you're not really doing your role as a leader in a family. And so that's a big problem that I had before, is that I kind of wanted to do this on my own, and it really affected everyone. So one of the ways it affected my wife specifically is that her kind of desire is to serve me as my wife, is to cook for me and to serve me and making meals for me. And I feel like I kind of took that away from her, and I took that and I made it not only something that she couldn't do for me, but I made it more difficult for her as well, in that when I would cook meals, I'd come home and cook a meal, and she would basically cook an exact same difficulty meal for herself, and I wouldn't have the opportunity to cook for her or to show my affection or my love for her in that way, because I was doing it for myself, and I couldn't take that time back, and I couldn't adapt that and say, hey, I'm going to use this time to love my wife. I had to think about myself, and I had to think about my diet. It was difficult because Kelly had just gotten pregnant. Kelly's my wife. She had just gotten pregnant, and I just decided to start this keto diet. However, if you know anybody who's ever been pregnant before, you know they have cravings for like pickles and ice cream and all these weird things. Well, my wife, her thing was carbs, and that was the one thing I was giving up. And so I found that was really difficult, not only for me, but for her, because we were both on different pages, and I didn't talk to her about it, and I didn't invite her into the conversation. I just kind of said, hey, I want to do this diet. I'm going to do this diet. If I have one tip and one thing that I learned from doing it this last time, it would be to involve Kelly in the conversation. And when my kids get old enough, to kind of see if this is something that I can involve them in on too, because it was difficult and it was hard. So how did I involve my family when it came to keto? So what we did was, since Kelly wasn't eating carbs and I was just eating kind of meat and fats and all that other stuff, is I would take the role of picking the entrees, and I would choose the entrees, such as, oh, we're going to eat steak tonight, or oh, we're going to have fish tonight. And she would pick the sides, and we would cook together, and really that brought us together as a family. And it also allowed me to be able to eat what I need to eat for my specific style, and then she could eat whatever she wants to eat. It was also hard initially because budget-wise, it's very difficult to be keto and to have a manageable budget, because you're out buying meats, and meats aren't necessarily budget friendly. And so when you go to the store and you spend $120 and you realize all I got was 5 days worth of meat and no sides and no drinks and no anything else. So the way we got over the difficult budget is that after a while, when you get fat adapted, you really lose a lot of your hunger, and you lose a lot of that desire to eat so much at each meal. And that was a big hump for me to get over, because when I see a big meal, I want to eat it all. When I was brought up, my family would tell me, you need to eat everything on your plate before you go to bed. And so that kind of stuck in my mind. Next point I wanted to talk about was eating out. So eating out, it was a big ticket for me. And when you go out and eat out, you don't want to be the guy that's sitting over there eating a chicken breast in the corner by himself that he brought from home while everybody else is eating Chipotle or whatever. One of the things that I kind of learned was to eat around that. You don't need to have a full meal every time you go out to eat. You don't need to go out and get an entree and two sides of, a 4-course meal. What really helped me was eating before or eating after and saying, hey, I'm going to take this time to fast. I'm going to take this time as a time of abstaining from eating a full meal at this time. You don't really need to eat that much to feel full. One of the struggles that I had with keto was being able to eat the things that I wanted to eat still, like breads and desserts and stuff. And my father-in-law is a huge sweet tooth. One advice he gave to me was that you don't have to give this stuff up. There's alternative recipes for these things. There's alternatives for almost everything when it comes to keto. Like, I had a keto loaf of bread once, probably the best bread I've ever had. I have keto chocolate chip cookies and they're delicious. So when it comes to eating keto, you don't have to give up these things that you're thinking you have to give up. It's not all avocados and eggs. That being said, when it comes to meal prepping, there's countless options if you're willing to take the time out and cook it. One of my favorites is fat bombs. And so what fat bombs are, it's basically, everyone else that's keto will recommend this or talk about it. It's basically coconut oil, erythritol, cacao or cocoa or whatever you call it. And you mix those together and you put them in the fridge and you basically just eat. It's called a fat bomb. It's basically just fats and it tastes good. So definitely recommend that one. Another thing that a lot of people worry about giving up when they go keto is alcohol and drinks and going out to drink. And to be honest, that was a concern of mine because I love drinking beer and I love drinking scotch and I love, trying new drinks. And so when it comes to those things, there's keto options for that as well. Gin, vodka, scotch, a lot of the liquors have almost no carbs in them. They're considered low carb, and so you can have them while you're keto and still be in ketosis and not worry about that. When it comes to beer and wine, the drier the red wine is, the less carbs it's going to have. So red wine and white wine both can have a lot of sugar. However, there's options for wine that you can drink. And finally, beer. There's low carb options for beer as well. Michelob Ultra, I think, makes a 2.5 grams of carb per beer drink. There's other options as well. You just kind of have to go out there and look for them. When you're eating out, there's also options that kind of you can probably sway your friends or your family into to going to eat that they would like as well, such as wings, or Chipotle has a good low carb option if you know what you're putting in your bowl. I try and ask myself, how did keto make me a better version of myself? How did keto better me spiritually and better me as a father? And so when I think about it and when I look back at why I even started in the first place, I was looking for discipline. I was looking for virtues in my lives. And so when it comes to keto and sticking to the same routine, the monotony of it really killed me. And so it took a lot of discipline and it took a lot of patience to get through these humps of saying, I don't want to eat another stinking avocado today. And so what I would do is just kind of take it to prayer and take it to God and say, hey, can you help me? Because I'm really struggling with this. And so I know I can do it. I know I have the motivation to do it. I just need the Holy Spirit to guide me. I really just wanted to prove that I could stick to something. I was diagnosed with ADHD as a kid, so I know for a fact that I have a problem focusing. And so when it comes to finishing tasks, I kind of have to push myself to it. My eye on the prize is to sainthood. It's not only to get me to sainthood, but it's to get my family to this sainthood and this holiness as well. And so when it comes to eating keto, I kind of looked at it in the lens of, how do I morph this into something that can purify me and teach me virtues and teach me holiness? Or when I'm judged at the final judgment, doesn't matter what other goals you have in life, involve your wife. Hey, that rhymed. Anyways, that's my Catholic dad perspective. Hit the notification bell if you want to. If you want to be notified of any other videos that I come up with. Please comment, like, and subscribe below, and I will see you next time.